2017 Nissan Rouge Sport. This was a crank, no start with no fuel. This engine is direct injected. I don't quite have everything documented in fixing this car. The point of this video is this car and the captures I got stimulated me to do an experiment which kind of cleared things up for me personally as far as the inputs to the control unit and how these injectors use the power being provided to them, and how the service manual really isn't very descriptive on that. And I think how this could help you farther in diagnosis is because if you see a capture that I'm going to show you that's bad, you could actually kind of almost go right to the problem, or at least you know what side the problem's on, meaning power, ground, or control. And it'll make more sense as I start showing you the bad car, what was wrong with it. I've got a video that shows where this relay is located, and it's located in a horrible spot. It's up in the fender well in the left front, and if the fender well is compromised at all, man, water, crap, debris, everything's going to get in this relay box, and you're going to see that. And so bear with me while I try to fumble through this. I want to thank all the new subscribers. The channel's doing great. The comment section's awesome. I want to thank you guys for using the Autonerdz link. I'm seeing there's a lot of hits on the website from my link, and I thank you guys for that. And remember, anything in the future, if you need Pico wise, please check out the Autonerdz. The link is there. The guys are there. They answer phone calls, emails. Should be able to get all your questions answered. If I can't answer it, I'm going to refer you to them. If they can't answer it, then I'm not sure if it can be answered. But here we go. Let's start this off with a known good. This is after the vehicle was fixed. I just want to lay a little groundwork of what a good direct injector capture should look like. I want to thank Jason at the shop. These are captures that he took. This was a car in his bay. He just wasn't overly familiar with some of the direct injections. I got involved. I thought it was an interesting capture. Like I said, I couldn't record each and every step to the diagnosis because we were really under the gun to get this car fixed. So sometimes you just got to bang them out the door and hopefully you learn something. So pretty standard. You've got a pretty good kick. We're talking upwards of 65 volts. This car's running. It runs fine. Here's an amp trace. What are we going to look at? About 5 or 6 amps. Oh, 4.39, 4.5 worked for me. But the main thing to take away from this is the structure of this signal. You kind of have a big old kick, then you have a step down, and then you begin the pulsing. I'm not exactly sure where the fuel starts flowing, but I know given the pressure on the system, we really got to get that magnetic field, going quick to get that pedal moving. And then once things starts moving, then you're able to drop the voltage back down and pulse and keep the fuel flowing without all this voltage here, voltage and amperage. Let's just zoom back down and take another look at another one. Pretty standard stuff. Like I said, this is the car that's fixed, but just kind of pay attention. I think if it's two parts, you kind of got the big kick in the butt to get things moving, and then once you kind of, you get that momentum going, then you just take a small amount of energy to kind of keep it open, and then eventually it lets it close. So let's look at our bad capture. You can tell right off that this capture is cranking by all the noise, all the hair on here. This can easily be filtered out. Pico tip, do all your filtering after the capture. Don't turn your filters on while you're capturing live. It really messes with the sample rate. So just can't capture everything raw. And if you need to filter this, you can just do it after the fact, and you can see it cleans right up. And then you can add or subtract a little filter as needed. But don't really need the filter to display what I'm going to show you here. The red trace he's got is coil control, because he's trying to figure out which direction. Is it fuel or is it spark? So we'll start with that. So he's got good injection control, or good ignition control, excuse me, and he's got he's got some secondary going on here. Pretty safe to say at this point we've got spark. He back probed the high side on one of the injectors, and this is where he did like someone should. If you don't know what you're doing, or not know what you're doing, if you're confused before you make a call on something, raise your hand, ask somebody, and it's exactly what he did. This is the capture. So notice we've got the big peak, we've kind of got the small peak, and then we have no pulsing. I was like, well, that's not right. Here's another one. Well, we got a big peak. Looks like we tried to do something here. No pulsing. Let's just pick on another one real quick. So you kind of get in the picture here. We basically got the big peak and no pulsing. We'll go to a quick diagram. And this is the wiring diagram is kind of where my curiosity got moving forward. I'm just going to skip right to the relay was the problem. We did some testing in between to lead us to this point, but I don't have that to show, so I'm just going to show you exactly what we found. The relay was closing. 4 and 5, this is at our ECU. If you look at the call out, 4 is fuel injector driver power supply number 1, and 5 is fuel injector driver power supply number 2. That's all fine and dandy. Why do we have 2 different rated fuses? If we're just injector driver power 1, injector driver power 2, things should be equal. But we've got a 15 and a 10. These are things that are making me curious as to why Nissan's doing this. Why are they not telling me exactly what's going on here? But right now I've got to get this car fixed. This relay is in the left front fender well, like I've already said, and I'm going to show you a video on yet another car. This car had a bad problem. This capture was taken back in February. Today, we're looking at today's date as the 17th. Literally yesterday, the video I'm going to show you was taken yesterday, May 16th, of a Rouge Sport with the exact same problem. I mean, the exact same problem. And that's why I'm thinking this experiment has a little bit of merit. So basically, we didn't have the right amount of voltage on one of these pins. We had enough voltage to power up the DC to DC converter or the capacitors in here, but we didn't have the right amount of power to provide the pulsing for the actual fuel to flow. We kind of got this thing figured out pretty quick, got everything cleaned up, popped a new relay in it, and down the road she went. So let me show you. Here's the back side of the relay. So you got a standard power and ground. And then you've got a pole here, and you've got a pole here. Well, here's the other side of it. Your power and ground, the coil side worked. Something's not happy in here. I did not take this relay apart, but if it's this bad on the outside, it was pretty bad on the inside. So now I'm really wondering, why in the hell does Nissan need to run a 15 amp fuse on one leg and a 10 amp fuse on the other? They're not telling me something. There's something going on in that box that I need to know. That's why I did an experiment. I theorized that the one leg powered up some sort of converter that ramp the voltage up like a capacitor setup, and I theorized the other side kind of was the power for the pulsing. At this point, I didn't know that for a fact, but later down the road, I got another car in, and I proved this point out. So before I get into that, I'm going to show you a quick little YouTube video, or GoPro video that I did on a car literally 3 months later with the exact same problem, just to show you guys where this relay's at. And if you see one with compromised fender wells and stuff, you bet your ass you need to go into this relay box first, especially if you're up against time, flat rate, service writers bitching. You guys probably know it better than I do. So hang on, let me get this other video up, and then I'm going to start getting into the experiment that I did.
Alright, so the car on the video is a Rouge Sport just like this one, and this car's in here for the exact same problem. So this relay box lives right up here, and if these things are exposed to the elements, like this car was hit, come from another body shop, this is your direct injected relay right here, and you can see how bad they get down in there. And this car did the exact same thing as the one I'm going to be talking about as far as the captures. No start, no fuel. The connectors get really green and nasty, so there's a pretty good clue to be had here. If you get one of these in here with a no start with a weird injection pattern, I'd definitely be looking for damage to the fender well or any sort of body stuff, because it's in a pretty vulnerable place. But kind of neat, seen it twice, pretty close to back to back. Hope you guys enjoy.
Alright, so the experiment I did was I got me a 2020 Altima with a direct injected motor, and here's the diagram for it. Now, one thing I noticed right off the bat, here's our relay, is that this relay was fed 15 and 15. And I did check these fuses, and they were both 15s. On the Rouge Sport, it was a 10 and a 15, and they actually were different in the car. So remember, fuse 74 and fuse 67. And if you look at the call out, 3 and 4, which is right here, fuel injector driver power 1 and fuel injector driver power 2. So pretty much it's the same as the Rogue, except it does have two 15s. But the relay, I believe, for one, it's in a different spot on an Altima. It's not quite so vulnerable to the weather. But I felt like this car was going to be good enough for me to prove my point. What I'm trying to prove is one fuse powers some sort of a capacitor, some way for this computer to step the voltage up, and one fuse provides the power for the injector to actually pulse. So guess what I did? I hooked the scope up and I started pulling the fuses one at a time, and it proved my theory right. But I don't look at this as a waste of time. I look at this as a learning experience, and if I see patterns on Nissans that's missing either the tall area or the pulses, dude, I'm going for relays. I'm going for the power. I mean, if one fuse blew, you would get these. So here's the experiment and the results of it. So let's see. Fuse 67 removed. So what I did was I just started the car up and let it idle for a little bit. And you can see I've got everything I need. It's pretty happy. There's our current. I'm back probed high side and low side, and I've got the current, which is probably the best way to check direct injectors, as long as you're not in an all-fired hurry. So let's get over here. Car starts acting up. Now, the car never cut off, but I do know if it did cut off, or it started running really bad, it would never restart. So now the blue trace, does that not remind you of exactly what the Rogue looked like? I had the high spike, no pulsing. and that's with one of the fuses removed. Basically, I took power from the ECU on one leg. Although the call out says it's just a driver 1 and driver 2, everything's all nice and hunky-dory. Well, it's not. There's another one. See that nice high pulse? No fuel being sprayed. No fuel being sprayed. Okay, so I put that fuse back in, and I pulled the other one out. So over here, we're good. I wanted to start out, everything's nice and happy, good looking pulse, car's running fine. And there was nothing wrong with this car until I started messing with it. And you can kind of see it really started getting ugly over here. It eventually stalled out. Now this is neat. Now look at that. I have no tall spike, but yet I have the pulsing. Now I did realize that if this car idled, the fuel pressure was probably 400 psi. It was able to open the injector enough to keep it running. Now, albeit it wasn't running very well. But I don't know why this direct injection fascinates me so much, but I thoroughly enjoy experimenting with it. Especially when I have a chance to prove theories. So, I guess at the end of this video, the best takeaway is if you've got a car in your bay and you suspect it has no fuel and you start getting patterns that either have pulsing or only have the spike, and you have 2 power inputs to an ECU, I don't care what the call out says, these powers have to be verified 100%. And if you're working on a Nissan Rouge Sport, or I think even the newer Nissans with the little 3-cylinder motor, and there could be some other Nissans, and that relay is up inside the fender well, and you just kind of take a quick look and you see that fender well is missing, broken, compromised, you just need to go straight to that. Go ahead and get that Diag money, get that repair money, get that car fixed. And I know that now that I've done this little experiment, but when we saw the very first one, you know, we were going into it blind. We knew we did not have a perfect injection pulse. We didn't know if we had a driver problem. We didn't know if we had a power problem. We didn't know if we had a connection problem, and it took us a while to prove it. But now I know exactly where I'm going to go if I'm missing one of the 2 parts, and that's just me, you know, calling it. I'm calling, you know, let's say from this line to here, part 1, because there's a separate part in the computer that controls that. And then I'm calling this part over here part 2. So if I don't have 1, I'm looking for power problems. If I don't have 2, I'm looking for power problems. If I have both and I don't have any fuel, well, that could be just a whole nother video right there, because Lord only knows what could be going on with that stuff. But I thought it was kind of neat. I wanted to share this. I did this little presentation on an Autonerdz group therapy probably back in February. I just hadn't had time to put it together to present for my YouTube audience, so I hope you like it. Let me know if you've run into, say, Toyota or Chevrolet or Ford or anything you guys work on. Do they use a similar setup? Are there 2 power feeds per driver? You never know, man. There's only so many ways to skin a cat or to make a wheel round. Other manufacturers most likely are doing things like this. They may not be good at describing it, or they may be better at describing it. It's kind of neat how I think that capacitor was discharging. Let me just keep you guys one more second. See how the tall spike slowly starts bleeding down? I think that thing may have had some residual energy in there, because all I did was had the car running and pulled the fuse out. And then see how it just finally kaputted completely out and just left me with you know, some of this craziness here. Now, granted, the car was running like crap. It wasn't happy with me. And it would not restart. Once it killed over, it would not restart until I put the fuse back in. Either fuse. So, you never know. It may help one day. I thought it was neat. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks again for subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. The comment section's been freaking awesome. And don't forget, if you need anything Pico, click the link in the description box. Hit the Autonerdz guys up. At least give them a chance. Give them a look. That's all we ask. And I'll see you guys on the next video.